Hi, this is Rick Bell, the gig coach, and today we're going to talk about the 6 types of chords that you need to know. Now, first of all, a chord is made up of multiple notes. A note is an individual note that you would play, but when you group them together, they form something called chords. The basic chord is made up of 3 notes. It's called a triad. And the 3 notes are the 1, the first note in that scale, the third, the 3 note in that scale, and the 5th, the 5 note in that scale. So you have a basic triad is 1, 3, and 5. The 6 types of chords that you need to know are the major chord, the minor chord, the augmented chord, and the diminished chord. And there are 2 extra chords thrown in, but these are not triads. These are what we call extended chords, because they add another note. More than the 1, 3, and 5, just the 3 notes of the triad, when you add one more note, it is called an extended chord. And the other 2 types of chords you're going to need to know are 7th chords. That's simply adding the 7th degree of the scale along with the 1, 3, and 5. So you would have a 1, 3, 5, and 7. Now, there are 2 types of 7 or 7th chords you can have. You can have what's called a major 7th chord, and don't ask me why they call it a major 7th. That's just the time-honored tradition. And the other type of 7th chord is a dominant 7th chord. Now, the dominant 7th chord and major 7th are almost the same, but there's just 1 note difference in the chords. So let's look at the first type of chord we spoke of, and that is the major chord, the major triad. As you look at this keyboard explanation, and it's easier to understand on a piano keyboard. Just remember when you're looking at a piano keyboard that 1 note on a piano equals 1 fret on the guitar. So it's note for note. Every note that's on the guitar can be found on the piano. So the basic major chord is the 1, 3, and 5. If you were playing a C chord, the notes would be C, that would be the 1 note. E would be the 3 note, and G would be the 5 note. So you have in the illustration, you see the C, E, and G. That's a major triad. The second type of chord we mentioned was a minor triad. The minor triad simply moves the third of the chord down 1/2 step. That's 1 fret on the guitar or 1 note on the piano. That's what a half step is. A whole step would be 2 notes on the piano or 2 frets on the guitar. So to make a minor chord, you have the 1 in its same place, but you move the 3 down 1 note, and the 5 stays where it was. So you have the 1, flat 3, 5. That's what the little symbol means before the 3. It's flat. 1 flat, 3, and 5. The next type of chord we'll look at is an augmented chord. Now, the most common types of chords are the major and minor. You will rarely have augmented or diminished chords as a beginner player. Those come in more advanced pieces, but I wanted to explain what they are. They're fairly simple. The augmented simply means the 5th element, the 1, 3, 5, the number 5 note, is raised 1/2 step. That means 1 note on the piano or 1 fret on the guitar. So an augmented chord would be 1, 3, sharp 5. Sharp means up. Flat means down. Sharp means up. So you have an augmented chord by playing a 1, 3, and a sharp 5. The other type of chord in this family is the diminished chord. Now, a diminished chord is like a minor, but you just flat the 5th note like you did the 3rd note. So a diminished chord ends up being a 1, flat 3, and flat 5. So you have 2 flattened notes in the triad, the flat 3 and the flat 5. That makes a diminished chord. The other 2 chord families we spoke of are the extended chords, and that's when you get into the 7ths, 9ths, 11ths, 13ths. But the basic extended chord is the 7th chord. So the first 7th chord we'll look at is the major seventh chord. And you do that by simply playing the 1, 3, 5, and then adding the 7 to it. The seventh note of the scale will be right below the octave. In other words, if you're in C, the seventh note would be B, right below that C. That is a major seventh chord if you played that. Now, to make that the second type of seventh, which is a dominant seventh, you just move that seventh down a half step, flatten it, one note on the guitar, or one fret on the guitar, one note on the piano, and then that becomes a dominant seventh chord. You play the 1, 3, and 5 in their normal triad positions, and then you just have flattened that seventh, and it makes for a dominant seventh. You will use that, the dominant 7, more than you'll use the major 7 in chords as you're learning songs. So I hope that helps to clear up some of the misunderstanding about all of the chords and not to overwhelm you. My theory of teaching is to teach you what you need to know, but in a way that makes sense to you, that you can readily and fairly easily apply it. So I hope this helps. More to come. Rick Bell, the Gig Coach.